Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Really pleased to have this opportunity to chat to you all, meet you all, and just talk all things remote working. With me, I've got some wonderful experts here in this space. We've got from LogMeIn, we've got Yvette McEnearney, who runs the UCC business in Asia Pac. It's essentially their go-to webinar products. And so we're going to meet her and going to learn a bit about her and the way that she manages her sales team. And I've also got here Zoe Sharan, who is the HR manager at Amicus. And so we're going to speak to Zoe about, I suppose, the HR side of this, how Amicus looks at looking after their people. So really pleased to be with you, and thank you very much everyone for joining us. Just before we get into the chat, one of our, we're just in terms of the housekeeping, today's webinar is going to be recorded, and we want it to be very much interactive. So, excuse me, very much interactive. So we would encourage everyone to be submitting their questions, and we will get to them live time as quick as we can, and the audio is via your computer. So yeah, it's been really interesting in the last, I suppose, only 10 days really, since we've all entered this fully remote world, and so yeah, really looking forward to learning. Before we get into it, it seems to be going to all different industries, including the church. And so what we've got here is the image of one of the Italian priests when he was doing a webinar for the Mass, and unfortunately he left his emojis or the ability to put funny faces on him. So just as a bit of a funny intro. No, so Yvette, would you mind introducing yourself to the folks at home, and just sort of sharing what you're looking to achieve today?
Yeah, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Yvette McEnearney. I run the UCC business for LogMeIn throughout Asia Pac. So, it's a really busy time. There's a lot of navigating for people to do at the moment. And I think the good thing for myself and my team at the moment is that we can really help people navigate what they need to do, how they need to achieve it, and obviously we have some technology that helps with that as well. So we feel quite privileged at the moment that we're actually able to help people.
Awesome, thanks. And Zoe, can you introduce yourself to the folks at home?
Yeah, I'm Zoe Sharan. I work for Amicus. If you're wondering, I am wearing pants in case I have to suddenly hop up. I know often when we do video conferences, Lord knows what people are wearing on the bottom half, but I'm wearing pants for those who are curious. And we're quite lucky where we work because we've been doing activity-based working for years, with home being an option, and now home is the option. So we've transitioned quite easily. But we do have a number of clients we deal with who are only just making the shift. So what I want to get out of today is whether you're someone who's just starting to work from home or you've been doing it for ages and want to ramp that up to the next level, I'll be able to share some tips to help out with that. Perfect. So I suppose we might get into to some of the questions here. And thanks to everyone who's sent in some questions from home. So that's a big help. A question for Zoe, first up. There's a lot of change that people are having thrown at them. So should we dial down other change initiatives to not overload them? It's a really good question. I would say it depends what it is. Anything to do with cultural change and ways of working, I would put your foot on the accelerator about those. As human beings, our default position is we love comfort and we'll almost do anything to stay there. And any change manager will share with you that the main thing to activate change is a sense of urgency. And what bigger sense of urgency is there than right now to adjust to new ways of working? So for those out there who are thinking, I was just about to do, a shift in company culture, talk about new ways of working, articulate our values, my recommendation is very strongly to go with that. we help a lot of clients, you know, move office spaces or update their existing spaces, and we get asked this question all the time. And when our advice is followed to concurrently take a major change in another area and match it with cultural change initiatives, that is where the magic happens, because everyone's got that sense of urgency to drive forward. There might be other change types to not go ahead with. You know, maybe there's just limitations and they can't be done. But for all things culture change, ways of working, off you go. Carpe diem. Yeah,
no, good. Thanks for that. Now, question for Yvette. So, for background, you are leading a fairly large sales team who are used to meeting with their customers face to face. So, a question would be, how do you keep them motivated and focused to continuing to drive their sales number in this environment?
Yeah, sure. It is a tough one. I've got a team of 17 salespeople. Some are inbound, you know, who are used to being in an office, having a lot of noise around them, having people they can bounce ideas off. So that's been a bit of a challenge. And then I've got a group of salespeople that are outbound. So they're used to seeing customers face to face, being out in the world, driving around, you know, getting on planes, all that sort of stuff. So a few things we've done is, you know, I'm doing morning huddles with my team. So every morning for 15 minutes, we're grabbing a quick chat, having a coffee together, then doing smaller huddles with, you know, different groups. I've set up a WhatsApp group for my team. We've also, you know, got a Slack channel running for our organisation too, so there's questions. And I've really encouraged them to connect with each other separately, and they've been doing that really well. I think for them, they're actually really busy at the moment, given the climate we're in and the technology we sell. So they are lucky in the fact that, you know, they're not waiting around for the phone to ring or anything. They're literally, you know, exceptionally busy. So that's kind of helping. But, you know, it's been interesting to see the different types of people and how they are adapting to the change. The people you think would adapt really easily have struggled a little bit more than the ones that you thought would do that really easily. So it's a challenge, but it's really just keeping connected, over communicating, and also looking at things like happy hour. So we're doing a happy hour this afternoon with the team at 4 o'clock. Everybody bring your own wine.
So you mentioned something interesting there, that morning huddles, and I suppose I'll dig deeper into the cadence, the management cadence that you are employing with your team. Do you think that and you said that there was you needed more communication. Do you think that changes the frequency or the depth, or how do you look at that with the way that you try to communicate to get the best out of your people?
Yeah, I think so. When you're in an office environment, you're seeing people almost daily unless they're out seeing customers. So normally I would just have a sales meeting once a week, and that would run for a longer period of time. We would cover forecasting and what was going on in the business and what are we doing from a marketing perspective and the like. Now it's like 15 minutes, and sometimes we don't even talk about the business. It's literally, you know, what challenges have you had today, or, you know, funny stories about, you know, how the dog jumped on the computer and tipped over the coffee, how your kids, you know, come into the background and you're trying to have a meeting and they're telling you they're hungry. So trying to keep it light. I mean, obviously we still have to cover the important things of where, you know, they are in a sales cycle, or, you know, if they've got customer issues and the like, but, you know, very much trying to change it up every morning. So it's not just the same conversation, you know, really trying to have that personal interaction. And to be honest, I think some of the team are actually now closer that we've gone remote, because they are talking to each other a lot more, and it's not just about going into the office and sitting there and doing your job and leaving. Yeah,
no, that's good. Question now for Zoe. So in a lot of the conversations that I'm having with HR leaders, one of the main concerns is about wellness. And so specifically mental health for those who may have depression, and even it could just be the extroverts aren't getting the same energy from being around people that they normally do. How are you looking after the wellness of your people when you can't be around them?
Yeah, look, I could give an essay answer on this question. I'll try and keep it and short, and I also would welcome anyone to, you know, from their perspective, type in what they're doing into the little question bar that I can see over here. or comment bar, I should say, questions or comments, because it's probably not just our organisation doing some great things. There's probably a number out there, but we have got a holistic program in our business called Equilibrium that tackles wellness from a number of different angles, because wellness means so many different things to so many different people. There are, you know, and our population is very broad. Yvette's leading salespeople, whereas we're in construction and commercial real estate. So we have got some salespeople, but we've got people in, you know, construction on site and project managers and so forth. So the wellness needs across all our various groups are so vast and wide that it's not all about, you know, yoga or meditation and healthy eating. There's different ways. So because we do want to promote the well-being of people, we've got a number of things going. We are doing some pulse checks to check in. You know, how are you feeling today on a scale of, you know, 1 to 10, so we can get a read on that. That's one way we're doing it. Another way to check in on the wellness of people is to communicate in the way that Amicus does, through really illustrative moments. Instead of saying, stay well and focused, and God knows what that means, we're actually capturing it by describing what we want to see. We use illustrative moments. I've printed this out, I never knew if it would come in handy, but instead of a long list of, you know, ergonomic requirements, there's a moment there. You know, Lisa knows preventing repetitive injuries from desk work isn't just about ergonomics and stretches. It's about getting up and moving hourly. She's an overachiever and moves in a way that would rival a Cirque du Soleil performer, because that to us is talking about a moment of movement. They're not sending a long policy-like document. It's more something quite comedic that people can relate to, and will prompt them every hour to get up and move away from their desks. We've also got a number of other initiatives as well. We've set up a communications channel on the service we're on called the Play channel, where each other checks in. But most importantly, we're really making sure that people make those phone calls and jump on video conference as much as possible, because you mentioned extroverts and introverts. We could all be assuming that introverts are loving being alone, or extroverts are going to be on the phone, but we shouldn't make any assumptions during this time. We should look at people and talk to people and do those check-ins to understand how they are going, and ramp up the frequency of those conversations, even if it's just to say hi and you've got no motive behind it. If someone is feeling a little bit isolated, that can be a massive difference in their day.
Yeah, no, got it. No, it's really, really important to look after people, and yeah, keep that connection, I suppose, is a big one. Now we've got some polls set up. We've actually got a poll here, and I'd love to know how people are working today. So I think we've got the poll. Have we got it up here on the screen? What we're going to be doing is putting up a poll here to see what is your current business arrangement, whether you're currently remote, are you completely remote, our team is partly remote, or everyone is still in the office. So we'll just keep this poll going. Just leave it going for another 10 seconds. All right, should we have a look at the numbers? All right, cool. All right, let's move on. I can't see
Okay, so the numbers we can see with the poll is that we've got 64% completely remote, 33% partly remote, and 3% everyone is still in the office.
Yeah, those numbers actually don't surprise me very much. Pretty much all of the guys that we're speaking to are either in a process to move across, or they already did move across. Now, question for, I suppose, for Yvette. Remote working in 2020 is quite different to remote working at any other time before, given that, first of all, it's mandatory. Everyone has been sent home as opposed to being given the option to go home. And the second piece is we've got kids around. So, I mean, how are you working with remote working this time around than you would have done in the past?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've had roles, predominantly the previous role that I had to this was, when I wasn't traveling, I worked from home. So remote working is not unnatural for me. I have done it for a long time. This is vastly different to what it was then. Like you said, we're sort of all forced to do this. Like previously, remote working was a choice. And, you do it like a couple of days a week or one day a week, and then you go and get your interaction in the office for the other days. So it's definitely vastly different. I think one of the things people really need to look at is actually putting some structure around it, because you can get caught up in pretty much working 24/7. So it's really important to block out time. And I've been sort of trying to, work with my team around this too, is the time that you would normally use to commute to the office, use that to go for a walk around the block, or watch a TV show that you've been wanting to watch, or sit down and play a game with your kids, because I think you can literally get up, be in your pajamas, go straight to your computer and pretty much stay there until it's time to go to bed. So really important to put some structure in, to take breaks, to walk away, to get some exercise, to make sure that you are refreshing your mind. The kid factor is really interesting, especially now that, a lot of us have now got kids at home with us full time. Been sent home all of this work for school in terms of getting online, paperwork, books, all this sort of stuff. And it's really hard. My kids are primary aged, so they do need guidance and they need me to put the structure around it. It's not like I can say, right, this is what your teacher sent home, you need to go and do that. So that's been a struggle. And to be honest, in some instances, I kind of feel like I am neglecting them to a certain degree without being able to do it. So, I feel like, if they're at school, they're probably spending 4 hours on schoolwork. I'm lucky if I'm getting 45 minutes in with them at the moment. But I think the thing we have to think about is, be kind to yourself in this situation, because it is unusual. When we haven't signed ourselves up to be homeschooling our kids. They need our attention as well. Their mind is sort of running at a million miles an hour too. They don't really understand what's going on. And that's particularly for my age group of children. They're only 9 and 7. So, they kind of get what's going on, but they don't really understand the gravity of it all. So just really, for me, I try to, stop working at sort of 6 o'clock, get dinner ready, and then spend time with them. So the last 2 nights we've been playing Monopoly. Just little things to just keep, a little bit of normality. And they're probably actually spending more quality time with us, whereas we'd be rushing home from the office, getting dinner, getting them ready for bed. So there's not as much structure now around, we have to get them into bed by 7:30 so that they're fresh for school the next day. So that's obviously something that's a little bit of a challenge. And then obviously as I work through the day, them coming in saying they're hungry, I'm in the middle of a conference call. But, this is the new normal, and most people are quite used to it. And actually people like the distraction and the interruption, because, it is, giving a little bit of lightheartedness to what we're all having to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. Now, I'm just seeing the results coming through from this poll. So we asked the question, how are you working today? Are you completely remote? Is your team partly remote? Or are you still in the office? And we've got 64% are coming through as completely remote. We've got 33 as partly remote, and then 3% only is still 100% at the office. So quick question for, I suppose now, Zoe. Let's go to, I suppose, more the HR domain in terms of leadership. So leadership in a remote world is very, very different. And particularly in this context where everyone has been forced to go home, we've had a situation where normal change processes, we do it bit by bit by bit, incremental, and we support our people all the way through. In this case, not so much. Everyone's just been overnight, too bad, so sad, you're going home. So talk to us about leadership and what leaders should be doing in this time.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say it's a combination of business as usual, but also really moving fast to adapt to the new world. So to Yvette's point earlier, the business as usual parts where you have a morning huddle, you have a weekly team meeting, keep those structures in place around meetings. Also keep your rituals going. Before dialing into here, I joined our virtual March team birthdays with Amicus. So keep all that stuff going, because people do turn to their leaders to recognise whether they're totally freaking out or whether they're still steering this ship. On the side of leaders and what they do need to do differently, there's a few things. If you're a leader and you're listening to this and you believe that you need to visibly see people, then that needs to go out the window pretty fast, because it's now about outputs, not seeing the first person to get out of the lift and the last one to go back in. It's really about getting work done. So if you're a leader who it's a while since you've actually sat down with someone and shared their goals with them, get onto that pretty fast, and you're probably going to have to come with that so you don't appear to be totally bipolar, is to say, hey, I recognise we haven't had a check-in for a while. We're going to do that now. I want to make sure that over the next, couple of weeks, however this long lasts, you're clear on what you're working on and know I'm here to support you, and check those goals and follow in and check up. The other thing that has to go out the window as well is any mentalities by leaders that think that people need to prove they can be trusted. It doesn't work like that. It's trust needs to ramp up pretty fast right now, because if you're ringing up someone to catch them out, taking their kids for a walk up and down the driveway, so they should be taking their kids for a walk and up and down the driveway. It's all about I love it when people talk about work-life harmony instead of work-life balance, because balance kind of indicates you're backing and forthing, whereas it now needs to harmonise. And as a leader, you need to give trust to get trust. And there's a great handout, the 12 behaviours of trust. That if that doesn't sound like a familiar piece to you, feel welcome to reach out and get that and do a self-assessment on yourself. What characters and behaviours do you show that demonstrate trust? Because if you're not doing it, you are likely to have that employee who might not be thoroughly, free to share, because they might not see it safe to do. So they're just a couple of things. Again, I could go on and on, but I'll not. Hopefully that helps.
Yep. No, thank you very much. That's really good. Now, we've got a really interesting question from the audience. I'll do that, and then we might go to our next poll. So, question for Yvette. It's from Mary in the audience. She said, we've got a lot of work from home. We've had a lot of work from home arrangements in the past, mainly with parents and kids. So that's the sort of stuff we were talking about before. This new group we've got working from home are the young, potentially single share house group. So do you have any hints on what they're experiencing and how to motivate them?
I'm happy to, either of us, pick a person.
Zoe, why don't you go for it then?
Okay, well, I clearly don't meet the criteria of young, so let's just overlook that part. But an area that I can relate to is having, I do have a 3-year-old, so I can kind of answer both the family and the personal side, but I'm a beyond addicted to the game of netball. I play 5 times a week. And something that's been really interesting for me is my love of exercise, and it's now pre-season, so I'm meant to have a certain level of exercise for that. And where that struggle comes in is, the combination wanting to do those non-child activities, which is my sport, but then having a house full of people, just keeps on overlaying challenge, but challenge by challenge. My recommendation for those people, and I'm rereading the question to make sure I really answer it, is to what you're experiencing. If there are multiple people and you're single and feeling a bit isolated and so forth, is a real opportunity to have a look at your own work rhythms to know when you can maximize those. And what I mean by that is, my personal example is, first when I shared it with my colleagues, they thought I was a lunatic. I'm starting my work day at 4 at the moment, because I know that first thing in the morning I'm at my most productive, and I love dead silence, and my access to dead silence is 4 o'clock in the morning, and I can smash out a whole bunch of work. And it means that my husband's taking the night shift, and that actually is working really well with us. So if people are in a share house, they might like to sit down with each other and say, hey, I need silence to help me work. You know, I like to be surrounded by people, and kind of overlay your schedules a little bit. So you have got that balance of deep work and then shallow work that welcomes interruptions to balance that out. And for the motivation piece, if your leader's not helping you and giving you goals, set yourself some, because having something to work towards is a natural human motivator. So if that's not being, you know, forthcoming by your leader, I would strongly recommend starting your day with, what do I want to have done by the end of the day, just to give yourself a little bit of purpose and drive.
Cool, thank you. So we might actually go to our next poll. Peter, if we can put that up. So the poll is, what is your experience with working from home? This is scary and new for me. I've done it before. Or working from home is how I roll. If we can put those up. And while you're also doing that, I'd very much encourage everyone to send in questions from home, because we are all from home, or most of us. In fact, I know that 64% of us are definitely working from home. So would love to see how it is. So essentially, how experienced are you with working from home? This is scary and new for me. I've done it before, or working from home is how I roll. And I might just give that for another sort of 5 or 10 seconds, and then we'll see the numbers once they pop out.
Joel, just on that previous question where we were talking about people that are single and working from home on their own and not having that connectivity. So we've got, you know, half of my sales team are, you know, quite young, just starting out their sales careers, and across our whole business there's probably, you know, 10 to 15 people that are in that boat. So we're very conscious of keeping in touch with those people because they are living alone. So, you know, for people like you and I who've got families, at least you've got other people in the house to talk to, but for those people, they are on their own. So it's even more important to keep in touch with those guys, and like Zoe said, is help them to set goals, make sure they are getting out to go for you know, a little bit of exercise. You know, just making sure that we are over communicating with those people is really important at the moment, because we really need to manage where they're at from their mental health perspective.
Yep, no, thank you for that. And again, just encouraging everyone to put in put in their questions. If you've got any questions for us, we'd love to see. All right, we'll get those questions, we'll get those answers in a minute. And before we get the answers to that, to the numbers, sorry, I might just go to one more question. One question for Yvette. What are some quick things that can be put in place to ensure an upbeat workforce? Yvette?
I think it's really important to keep things light. I think, you know, given the gravity and the seriousness of the situation we find the world in, is, you know, we've really got to have some humor around it. You know, really, you know, I'm asking for my team to come up with ideas about, you know, what's funny. So, like, you know, we've done meetings with wigs on and masks and, like I said, happy hour and things like that. So we really need to keep things light. You know, make jokes of certain things that we probably normally wouldn't, but, you know, in this situation just keeps people engaged and interacting. And I think that's really important to keep people smiling when they're, you know, it's all well and good to say, oh, I love working from home, but when you have no other choice, sometimes, you know, everybody wants to do what they're not allowed to do. So, you know, really trying to keep it light, I think, is really important.
Now, we've got some of the numbers back here from this poll. Essentially, it was saying, how experienced am I at working from home? We've got 17% of you saying this is the first time I've done it. 63, the vast majority, they've done it before, but I suppose this is not the normal way that they do it. And 20% is how I roll. This is how I roll. So I suppose we're learning new things every day. Everyone has done some part of, it seems most people have done some part of working from home. But yeah, it's very, very different, I think, in this environment. Now I'm going to just go back to one quick question for Zoe. Here's another leadership question, because I mean, I know that you are quite passionate about leadership. For leaders that can't cope when they can't see people, what should they do to get through?
Yes. Look, I'd echo some of the previous points. Is where I'll actually start is to be really human about this. If you're a leader and you are freaking out that you cannot see your people and that's sitting really uncomfortably for you, I think that the first thing you need to do is just be open and share that with your team. I think we all need as little guesswork as possible at the moment, because there are so many unknowns. Don't add to it for people, and they're wondering, you know, when are they going to call? And if they ask me how I am, do I give them the real answer, or do I tell them how it really is? Now's your time to make some radical leaps forward as a leader and to start with being human. So that would look like a conversation with your team saying, hey, you know what? This is all new territory for me. I'm adjusting as fast as I can, but I'm a bit uncomfortable. I'm used to being able to see everyone, and now we're dispersed. And really encouraging that brainstorm, sharing. We're going to continue with our daily huddles, our weekly meeting, whatever it is. What else can we do so we've got the best of both worlds to both stay connected, but you also have got the experience of knowing that you are trusted to get the role done. Which then can lead to that conversation around, here's what I would love to see in terms of your output by the end of the week, and just flagging up front, you know, I am going to call you every day. It's actually not to check in. It's because I do want to understand how you're going, and for us to, as we're in this together, share our experiences, what is working, what's not working, where can we innovate, because we're moving into the new world rapidly. So let's use this time to really do it together, knowing that it won't all be comfortable. It'll be kind of messy. Some things will stay the same. Some things will shift the way we're working. But to really give that message that you as a leader are going to use this as an opportunity to develop yourself to an even better leader.
Yeah,
I think I'd really love to add something to that, Joel, and that is a lot of companies just use audio conferencing. And so I think now is the time people, you know, often don't want to turn their cameras on, but it really is the time to do video conferencing so that you can see somebody, you can see, you know, the expressions on their face, you can see a reaction, you can have more of that human interaction by having video. And I think people shouldn't be scared of that. They should actually embrace it, because it's a really good way of communicating.
I could
Yvette,
not
let's
agree.
keep going with that. Sorry, Yvette, let's keep going with that. Talk to us about the technology that we need to have in order to make flexible, to make remote work.
Yeah, so I think, you know, the main thing is that people have to have an internet connection. If they don't, obviously they've got a mobile phone that they can tether to if they don't have an internet connection in their house. You know, the types of technology that everybody is really utilizing at the moment is obviously, you know, the type of technology we're using today, so that, you know, if you're trying to talk to a large number of people within your business or a large number of your customers, you can do webinar type technology where you can get out one-to-many. And then there's, you know, your video meeting software that allows you to have, you know, your one-to-ones. I mean, I do a go-to-meeting with my team every morning, and there's often 22 people on the call, all with video, very clear audio, everybody can interact. You can see when someone's about to talk, so you don't get a lot of people talking over the top of each other, which is really lovely. And then there's the other side, is for those IT people who are like, well, God, what happens if my users are not very good at this? So what happens if they have a problem with their laptop? How am I going to help them? So we do offer remote technology that allows them access into people's laptops so that they can fix things for them on the go, so that they can continue to be productive. So there's lots of things out there, but, you know, they're probably just the ones that are, you know, the things that spring to mind right now. Into, you know, the coming months, depending on how long this goes on for, there's technology that, you know, also plays into this, and that is people's telephony. Like at the moment, people are probably using their mobile phones. They probably have a handset on their desk in their office that now is not there for them to use. So the other technology, you know, that we also provide, but is going to become really relevant, is soft phone voice technology. So it's basically meeting, video conferencing meets voice, and you know, you then can track the amount of calls people are making. You know, it can go on a company plan where you know, people aren't, you know, running up massive mobile phone bills as well.
Okay, cool. And can people reach out? Can folks reach out to you direct to learn more about?
Absolutely. Yeah, we can supply those contact details to you, or put them in the you know, put them up on the slide at the end of the webinar that gives everybody access when they basically go back and have a look at the recording. Otherwise, we can absolutely send a mail out to those that attended with contact details.
Cool, cool. Now, Zoe, I've got a question here from the crowd again, from Annabelle. It's about interviews and internal assessment. Do you have suggestions on how to manage interviews or internal assessment processes in a remote environment?
I'd need clarification on assessments as to whether you're meaning a group assessment or whether you're meaning a psychometric assessment, because I'm not quite sure what type of assessment we're referring to. But I've switched to video calls with interviews that I've been doing, because I am still in active recruitment mode at the moment. To Yvette's point, you know, if you don't have a technology solution, you need one, and it needs to be very simple, very easy, something that people can just access at the press of a button, not go through a 25-step punishing process, and by the time you log on, the interview's already halfway through. So I'm doing all video for interviews at the moment. Just to abbreviate, our process at Amicus is the journey does start online with a talent program, talent platform where people apply, and I ask them some online questions to get started. I then do a phone screen, so I'm using phone for that. I then do a first interview in conjunction with the hiring leader. Then we move to psychometrics. Then we circle back and do the second and final interview. And there definitely has to be a video face-to-face interview in there somewhere. And that's not just about me wanting to see people, oh my God, have they got two heads? It's not about that. It's also because the interview process is the person's opportunity to see if they want to come and work for us. So they need to be able to make that decision as well, and to see us and interact with us, to imagine what it would be like if they joined. If it was for an assessment centre though, where it was 20 people in a room being given a series of activities to see who the standouts are to progress them through your recruitment program, I wholeheartedly believe that you could use GoTo for solutions as well, because you could move some parts to online, where you could have interactive parts. It could even be facilitated through a meeting or a webinar or other solutions as well. So I would encourage you to reach out if you're thinking, how do I take this face-to-face content to online? Because yeah, it can be done. There are workarounds.
Okay, cool. Now, question now back to Yvette. One of my bugbears is making sure that we maintain these digital water cooler moments. I read something the other day that essentially Stanford research was saying that all innovation starts from these water cooler moments. It could just be you bump into someone down while you're lining up to buy a coffee. It could be that at getting just a water cooler moment. So how do we maintain water cooler moments in a completely remote environment?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I think our happy hour helps. So if everybody's got a glass of wine in hand and just having your general chit chat, it would be like if you were in the kitchen making lunch, for instance. So I think having more casual interactions rather than formal discussions around what's happening in the office, which is, you know, what generally happens. I think doing that. And I think I said earlier, I have a WhatsApp group for my team, and some of the things that are flying back and forward on there are actually quite entertaining, but also, you know, some good little ideas for people. So, you know, I think just having a few, you know, and nothing that's going to take up a lot of people's times, just, you know, so that they can do things as they think of it, and you know, you sort of just chat. And I think the 15-minute huddle in the morning is, yes, we sometimes talk about work, but again, it's just flying ideas around. And people have been coming into those with like, oh, you know, I was thinking about this yesterday, and why don't we try this tomorrow? And So I think if we continue that momentum, I think that helps us when we're missing out on those water cooler moments.
Cool. And yeah, we'll encourage anyone to put any questions up there. One last thing, I think we might actually just go to the last poll that we've got set up. So Peter, if we could put that up, please. It is, has your business set you up for successful remote working? Yes, I have everything I need. I am mostly prepared. I could use some help, and it's like the Wild West out here. If we can get, love to see some of the numbers coming through on this one. So how has your business set you up for success to work remote? I mean, the poor businesses themselves, so folks who are running these businesses, didn't really have much of a warning to get this all up and going. I mean, I know we all probably heard about coronavirus back in December, maybe even certainly in January, but I think it's all come to us fairly quickly. So we'll get these numbers when they come through. But yeah, any questions from the crowd? Might have time for one more. Yeah, we might have time for one more question. So one last one, I suppose, question to both of you before we show the numbers. What are your 3 top tips for leaders in how to lead in this environment? Zoe, do you want to go first? Your top 3 tips for leaders?
Yeah, look, I'll use it to summarize my previous points. Is number 1, ramp up your trust levels. You know, assume positive intentions in your team members. If they don't answer the phone on the first ring, they're probably not being devious. They're probably just juggling a crap load of stuff and getting, you know, work done for you as well. So number 1 would be ramp up your trust levels. Number 2 would be a human. You know, let people see you. You know, if you've got sports gear up in the background or funny family photos, you know, don't think you have to just pretend that you're in this robotic mode. You know, use it as an opportunity to get to know your team, and more importantly, for them to get to know you as well, because it's an opportunity to be all very human. And third thing is try and keep that normality as much as possible. Keep your regular meetings, keep your regular check-ins. If anything, ramp them up.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Zoe. And Yvette, your top 3 tips for leaders?
Yeah, I think definitely over communicate. So to Zoe's point is keep your rhythm. So if you generally have meetings once a week, you know, like I've done is I'm continuing that, but I'm also ramping it up with smaller ones. Having little, you know, meetings one-on-one with people really ramp up the over communication. I think keep it light and, you know, try and, you know, have a bit of fun with the team because you are remote. We've got to put some lightheartedness into the day. So I think that that's actually really important. And I think also to help your team with some structure, and that is not just around work, but also helping them to sort of, you know, if you notice that somebody is working really long hours during the day, is, you know, having a chat to them and saying, listen, you know, you should really, you know, close off at 6 o'clock, or you should really take yourself for a walk at lunchtime. You really need to have that break to, because you know, the last thing any of us want is for our teams to be burning out at this point in time. So I think it's really important to give them structure, but also make sure that they've got that personal outlet as well.
Yep, cool. Thank you very much for that. And we've actually got one last question. Question from Daniel. It seems to me that many businesses and employees would need some services from all 3 of your businesses. Is there a way that businesses can engage with all 3 of you at once? I'm not sure of the at once piece, but certainly all 3 of us. Zoe, is there anything that Amicus can help folks with in this period?
Oh yeah, so much. We've got a website. You can go to my name on LinkedIn. Something that might be useful is I put together a work from home guide that anyone is welcome to. Just head to my LinkedIn profile, and I popped it up there a few days ago. So download that, enjoy. The other thing that's interesting that we do is a piece called Touchline, where if there are moments that you need to make happen and fast, we can help you to press fast forward on those and talk about the elements that go behind it, because often a water cooler conversation, it's called a water cooler conversation, but you obviously don't need a water cooler. You can create that moment by having other elements in place, and we can help those to be recognised. So and we start those conversations with people for free without any expectation about where it will go, because we like talking. You may have detected that throughout your time with me today. And yeah, we specialise in commercial office interior fit out. So if you have a sudden inspiration to go into your office when you're working from home and fit it out, we can talk about that as well. But yeah, building access helps. So we'll
Thanks, Zoe. And Yvette, what should people reach out to you for?
Yeah, so I think obviously we've got the technology that allows people to work remotely, for IT teams to be able to access their remote workers. But I think the other thing that we've been doing really well, and I'm really proud of the team, and they actually feel a real sense of pride around this, is helping a lot of small businesses that never really thought they would have to think down this path, is how they can, look at business continuity and how they can shift their business model to keep their business running. And, just for an example, we're finding, psychologists, speech therapists, those types of people can continue to consult with their patients and clients over video. And so they can see each other, they can actually still go about their work, and people don't miss out on those services that a lot of people so desperately need.
Cool, thank you. And from my side, FlexCareers, we play in the future of work. We'd love to help you with any one of three things. The first thing would be to promote your employer brand through this time, because, as I keep saying to my customers, employers will be judged in 6 months' time by how they behave today, and so keeping close to your community of potential employees will pay dividends in the long run. Second thing we can help you with is to train your leaders and your employees in how to make remote working work. And the third thing is, if there are any layoffs to come, we do have a platform to help folks with the outplacement and career transition, to basically, whether that is a standard career transition or whether it's another sort of solution, to make sure that we can hold your stood down employees close to you until things normalise and you can pick them back up again. So I would love to speak to anyone about any of those three things. But yeah, thank you very much. Thanks very much also to LogMeIn for arranging this. Yvette, you guys are legends. We love hanging out with you guys, and we think your platform is amazing. I love it. And yeah, so thanks very much. And also thanks to Zoe for being, I suppose, the HR expert in the room, having your insights in this sort of environment where I suppose everyone is learning on the go. Has really, really been valuable. So thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to everyone who has joined us from home. We love interacting with you, particularly those folks who have sent in questions. So yeah, everyone else, thank you very much. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Joel.
It's been great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much.